375,000 square feet in the building directly behind me will have the opportunity for anybody who has
Jenkins.
Mayor Andrew Young, distinguished guests, I'm proud to be a part of tonight's program. You know, the Lord is so busy, He doesn't have time to watch over all of us all the time. So I truly believe He appoints others to make sure our lives are guided in the right path. I have always wanted to own my own restaurant. So in 1986, when I heard the mayor's plans to bring back life to downtown Atlanta with Underground Atlanta, I thought, that is where I want my business to be located. After attempting to pursue my venture, I was told it would not be easy. I had only our savings, determination, and the desire to work hard for what I wanted. My competition had already made it in the business world. Management experience, a larger flow of cash. This did not make my hurt any less. Then it came to me. Underground Atlanta was Mayor Young's plan. With nowhere else to turn, I decided to talk with him. He and Mrs. Young shared my sympathy and assured me it would turn out all right, and it did. Not just for me, but for others who would not have been able to lease space without Mayor Young. No brag, just blessed. We have been #1 in food court sales since day one. My friends and ex-co-workers say it gives them great inspiration to hear my story. They say they no longer feel you have to be a part of a certain clique in order to be heard. To you, Mayor Young, thank you. And keep on guiding us the way the Lord would have you to. I would like to introduce to you now Mr. John Portman, the Portman Companies.
You notice I didn't get an escort. You know, I made some notes here on what I might say tonight in reference to this occasion and in reference to Andy. But every time I do this, I end up throwing them away because somehow I get all involved in trying to remember what comes next, and instead of trying to really say what's in my mind and my heart. You know, cities are really made by people, and we've been very fortunate historically to have a very unique city. And maybe that uniqueness comes from the fact that we're the only city that was totally destroyed during a war a little over 100 years ago. And the rebuilding of that city gave a strength, an attitude, and a determination. But it created, I think, a spirit about the people. And it's the people that make the difference. And I'm reminded of, as a young man, listening to Bob Woodruff talking about the great tradition of the city of Atlanta, a city that managed to pull people together, to work together, to solve common problems for the community good. And Mr. Woodruff always said that if we do what's in the best interest of the community, in enlightened self-interest, we do what's in our own best interest. And that sort of sums it up, I think, for the attitude that this city has and the spirit that this city has had. We've had probably the envy of any other city that I know of, and I've worked in a lot of them, and they always ask me about how we make it happen here, how we bring people together here, how we as a city seem to join together to solve problems and to be able to elevate ourselves from personal selfish pursuits. Now, that's a perception that's out there, and I think it's a perception that's been earned, and a lot of people have contributed to creating that perception. And I think there's a lot of reality to that perception. But I also think that perception puts a responsibility on us to make sure that the perception is reality and we continue to move in that direction. I have supported Andy, I think, in every race he's ever run. And I've supported him because I've believed in him. He's a sincere, honest, intelligent, energetic, idealistic man who wants to make a contribution. And that sort of thing appeals to me. And I have traveled with him all over the world, and I have seen the man in action. I have seen other people respond to him in different lands with different languages and different cultures. And he has that ability to go across the borders and to have some kind of human connection with people, regardless of where he is. It's a very, very rare talent. And his reception is always open, friendly, and totally sincere. And everyone is very eager to meet him and to hear him. And if you've all, and I've always marveled at this, how Andy can get up and make an incredible speech on any subject at any time. And he says that's because he was a preacher, and preachers are supposed to get up and make talks on subjects at any point in time. I once told him, I said, if I could talk like you, I'd own the world. He said, if I could draw like you, I'd own the world. But Andy has that rare human quality and that ability to connect. And you know, I think the civil rights movement, I've tried to create an analogy related to the civil rights movement, and I put it into a sort of like a Broadway 3-act play. The first act was a necessary act in order to bring about the consciousness and to begin to state what's wrong and begin to create on the consciousness of what we all should do in reference to human rights. But once we've done that, the second act is really to make something happen. And so that act took place, and really back in the 60s, and the marches and the laws and all of that. The third act, which I hope is the act in which we are entering, is the act where we all begin to come together as people, where we can abolish our prejudices, where we can look on each other as one human being to another, where we can abolish our suspicions and our prejudices. And I know all this sounds very idealistic, but God knows what kind of world would we have if we didn't have some idealism going for us. Where we can really come together and begin to make a difference. And I think that Andy has been an instrument and a man that has made the difference, has made a great difference. He's been able to be a bridge that has been crucial at the time that he became mayor. And his last 8 years, he served as a tremendous bridge, not only within our city, but within our country and indeed around the world. He is a bridge. He is the best salesman, the most incredible salesman I think I've ever met. And the one reason he's a great salesman is because he's so sincere, and he's so honest, and he means so well. And I am glad to be here tonight. Andy, I've stood with you in the early days. I stand with you tonight, and I will stand with you tomorrow. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. T. Renee Crutcher.
Mayor and Mrs. Young, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure tonight to talk about two parts of Mayor Young's service to our city that are very important in my judgment. They are public safety and international affairs. Throughout his life as a civil rights worker, as a congressman, as an ambassador to the United Nations, and now as our mayor, Andy Young has always held a firm commitment to creating a community of justice. His approach to ensuring the safety and well-being of Atlanta citizens is rooted in his commitment, in this same commitment, a community of justice. It is an approach that has been community-based and inclusive in nature, for Andy Young knows that government alone cannot create public safety, but instead public safety must be an ideal and a goal to which members of a society aspire together. Mayor Young understands that the degree to which our city is able to break the evil of drugs and violence and other criminal activity is directly related to our ability to bring society together as law-abiders and as a society which will not tolerate crime. And in so many ways, the economic accomplishments of the city that you have just heard about on the film, and the educational activities which you will hear about later, are part of the mayor's overall program for public safety. Because ultimately, jobs, education, community involvement, and the promise of expanding economic opportunity are effective weapons in the fight against crime. Sergeant Louis Arkangeli. Incidentally, he's a policeman, sergeant on the Atlanta Police Department, and I thought as sergeant, I don't know how they picked you out, but it's wonderful that you have a name, Arkangeli, which is Italian for archangel. If we had a name we wanted to pick out for a police officer, it would be that. Sergeant Arkangeli will talk in just a minute about a number of specific public safety programs which have been implemented by Mayor Young's administration. And as you will listen, you will know that Mayor Young is tough on crime. You will know that he has been active in his support of the men and women of the Atlanta Police Bureau. You will know that he will not tolerate the abuse of law-abiding citizens by those who choose to stay outside the law. In addition to what I've just said, I have a few thoughts about Mayor Young's accomplishments in international affairs. But first, I would like to introduce three special people who helped to shape the city which Mayor Young has served and sold so well. If Mayor Ivan Allen Jr., Mayor Sam Marcel, and Mayor Maynard Jackson would please stand, I hope all of you will join me in giving them a round warm of applause. We owe a lot to all three of these gentlemen for their own distinctive contributions to our city. And thank you, gentlemen. I said that Mayor Young has sold our city. I didn't mean that he had disposed of it. I meant that when he came in the office, he understood that the role of a chief executive had become something more than a bookkeeper, somebody just to worry about the local budget. If we're going to really prosper, you know, we are in a great fight. We are fighting with South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, and some other states, Tennessee. If we're going to bring our state forward, our city forward, we are in a fight. And Mayor Young realized that, and he decided that he had to be a super salesman. So he started out on that plan, and he had a number of things that helped him that the ordinary mayor or the ordinary governor would not have had, and that was he'd been a congressman, and he'd been an ambassador to the United Nations, he'd traveled the whole world, and he was really a world figure. So that was the way he started. He began to use his international reputation and his innate ability to move between people of various cultures, colors, and countries in an effort to introduce Atlanta to the world. As Blaine Kelly will tell you in a moment, Mayor Young led Atlanta's business leaders on many trips, but always into doors that he would not, none of us would ordinarily have been able to get into. He commanded respect and reciprocity at the highest levels of business and government around the world. And throughout his tireless travels, and I emphasize the word travels, tireless, very few people could have kept the pace he's kept. The mayor always had one goal in mind, that was to instill in the hearts and minds of the international business community the same faith and belief in the city of Atlanta, in the Atlanta metropolitan area, which each of us in this room shares tonight. Mayor Young understands that those who control the capital of the world, the money of the world, are looking for safe investment havens by marketing our city's progressive, social climate, excellent infrastructure, and good business sense, Mayor Young has placed Atlanta on the world map and made our city an economic force to be reckoned with among the cities of the world. We have a lot invested in Mayor Young. We have carried him through his days as a congressman, and I speak now as a person myself who has served a lot of time in the public service. We have sent him through the Congress. He has been the ambassador to the United Nations. He's been our mayor, and so most of his adult life he has been on in the public service. We have a lot invested in him. The question tonight is, what shall we do with this investment? Will we keep him going? Will we put him in some job somewhere where he can be give us a return on our investment? Or will we turn him out to pasture? I think we'll keep using him. I want to close with a word from Sam Nunn, Senator Nunn, who sent this message. He couldn't be here tonight, but he sent the mayor his best wishes, and I think he perhaps captured the essence of Mayor Young's service to our city when he said, quote, "The Young administration has left many enduring monuments to your leadership," speaking of the mayor, "from vibrant neighborhoods to a thriving underground complex. But the most enduring monument is the goodwill you have done so much to foster among Atlantans and between Atlantans